Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Smudcast 808. Bruce Wayne as The Mask is nonsense. Now, I don't know if he's referring to The Mask as in the comic book character, The Mask, or Bruce Wayne is the mask of Batman is nonsense. I'm not sure. We'll find out.
I think he means the Mask of Batman.
Yeah, I think so too. I just want to be clear because it's a very literal word. So this is from M Enterprises. He has 40,000 subs. This video came out this year in July, has almost 100,000 views. And I personally don't have a horse in this race. There could be plenty of evidence for and against. I'm mostly aware of the, Wonder Woman? What was that? The annual? Was it volume 1? I can't remember what volume it was. And this was 10 years ago, around there, probably around there, of Wonder Woman. This is when they retell the telling of Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman first meeting. And they all touch the Lasso of Truth. If you don't know the Lasso of Truth is a very magical artifact that was created by was it Hestia, one of the gods or goddesses of ancient Greece? And it had a bunch of magical properties. That's kind of the Trinity idea, whereas Batman's the intellect, Wonder Woman is the magical person. So this lasso can do all kinds of things. One of the things it primarily does is reveals the truth as the person knows it. And they must say the truth. There is no if, ands, or buts. You must say what you believe. And she introduces herself as, I am Diana Themyscira, blah, blah, blah. I think Kal-El says, I am Clark Kent, Kal-El. So he says both names because that's what he believes to be true. And Batman just says Batman. So
I'm Batman.
He just says Batman. Yeah, just says Batman. And then Clark is like, really, Batman? He's like, shut up, leave me alone. So
at least Clark already knows by that point that he's Batman, that it's Bruce Wayne. I don't know about Diana.
Yeah. So this was, to me, is definitive. I mean, not from 30 years ago, but at least from till 10 years ago, or whatever that time frame was, tells us that Batman thinks, or Bruce Wayne thinks, he's Batman. And we can go deduce that as a boy, he was so shattered, his life was gone, that he was living for revenge. And then when he went through his training, he learned to discipline himself, saying, oh, there's more to life than just killing people and getting what I want. There's more to being this vigilante than just beating people up. I'm going to do this for the whole city so that no one goes through what I went through. In the process, I'm going to heal my soul and be a better person. So it's not just I am vengeance. He's going to beat people up because he wants to. He wants to be a better person, and that's through being the Batman. So inside, he is Batman.
Effectively, it means that at the time his parents died, the child Bruce Wayne died with them.
And therefore, him growing up really didn't mean anything because he was all about vengeance. He was all about getting justice for his family. And then finally, when he decides to hone his skills and learn from these crazy masters all around the world about martial arts and magic and all kinds of other crazy things like lock picking and deductive thought, he goes, wait a second, this isn't all about just catching the bad guy. There's more to it than that. And yes, part of it is fueled by my desire to get justice, but it's not revenge in the literal murderous sense. And I think that's where anyone, if they go through that much martial art training that quickly, they learn that they're not here to kill people, they're here to save people. So that's not told explicitly, though.
In the face of the madness of Gotham City, you could say Batman still adheres by the interpretations of Buddhism in regards to killing, but to an extreme where he seeks to, because you can kill, but you shouldn't. It's still negative. It's just worse if you look away while there's a serial killer around.
It's the same.
Batman takes that to the extreme of, well, I'll just become so capable, I don't have to kill the serial killer to stop him. Which is the perfect answer. Yeah, he's looking for the perfect reaction.
It's the same doctrine that most police officers go through. Violence is like the last resort. And they just have many avenues for violence, but it rarely gets to that unless there's a very extreme scenario where they get into and they're forced to use violence. So yeah, it's the same concept, only Batman is so capable of killing someone, and that's what makes him an ethical agent of Gotham, because he can kill very easily. He knows very well how to get the drop on anyone, and he decides
knows how to kill. He knows how to kill. He knows how to use conventional weapons, but he doesn't.
Exactly. He's trained in all these crazy martial arts. Apparently, everyone on the I can't remember what the number was, but it was a ridiculously high number, and he did it in the span of 10 years to ridiculous degrees that he ended up developing his own martial art. But that's the kind of genius he is. He has so much knowledge and so much understanding of the physical world, and he decides to say, wait a second, I am not going to be my parents' killer. I am going to save people. So,
and technically, physically speaking, he's past his prime.
Oh yeah, and
because starting with 30, you start to get slower.
And when you think of what you can do, if you're Bruce Wayne and you're training for 10 years and doing whatever, learning all these skills, you're a machine. You can do so many things. And then you compare it to Bruce Wayne, the man. He's a businessman. Which one would you identify as closer? The guy who could climb mountains and jump off a mountain with a kite strapped to his back and survive all these harsh environments and have extreme mental discipline, have the peak of physical fitness, being a martial art master of so many skills, or the guy who just hangs around with women and goes clubbing every night? Like it's obvious.
Bruce is the resource that keeps Batman going. Bruce is a means to an end.
Yeah, it's like that. We just do this thing with the money, and then I do the thing with the party life to make everyone think I'm having a good time and I'm doing my own thing. And then I get into my Lambo, I drive into the Batcave, and I get in the Batmobile and do my job. Like it's this thing just to keep appearances going, so that I can do the Batman.
So it's to the point.
Batman.
Yeah.
If Batman was okay with killing, he'd be on par with John Wick.
Yeah. Well, there is a Batman that kills. It's called the Grim Knight. So that idea has been explored.
Yeah, but alternatives are like that's off the path.
Yeah. Well, my point is that like everyone realized that it just doesn't compare to Prime Batman, just from that one element, because everything else skews off from there. It was what if Bruce Wayne, when he was 8, took Joe Chill's gun and shot him back?
Oh, really?
And from there it goes. But ultimately, Prime Bruce still proved to be the more appealing because of the nuance. It's just, what if Batman kills? It's like, we got the Grim Knight, and it's like, it has its own interesting ideas, but again, doesn't compare to the main version.
And if we have some evidence to support that Batman is the facade, then great. I mean, it doesn't really change much aside from what Bruce thinks of himself, and that's ultimately irrelevant because he's still Batman. He still does what Batman does, and inside, like, he could just be a confused little boy on the inside who's still fueled by anger and rage, but he has this adult self who's like, no, you are better than this. I am better than this. We are trying to make Gotham better. And even inside, if part of him thinks he's still Bruce Wayne and he's the little boy who's scared, that's great. That's a no big deal psychological trauma that some people have.
Yeah, and to be fair, it's like Batman being the facade is how it started off as, just like any other superhero. But later on, writers realized that flipping the coin per se on that dynamic made it Bruce Wayne and Batman in particular a bit more interesting. Yeah, because of that night, because of the night that defined him.
And this is just the certain stage of his life. Like maybe when he gets to his older years, he might see himself as just an old man who's past his prime, and I can't do the Batman thing anymore. Even if he thinks he is, in reality, part of him is like, yeah, I'm just an old guy. I'm not doing this. It's fine. And even that wouldn't change much. He'd still be like, we could look at him in Batman Beyond, where he is an old man.
I was just about to bring up we got a lot of that in Batman Beyond, where as much as he wants to be the one out there protecting Gotham, he realized rather quickly the moment he had to resort to using a gun when he was on his last legs, he realized as much as he wants to continue to do it until he dies, he accepted long ago that he couldn't,
Right.
and had to pass the mantle to someone else.
And there's iterations like the Kingdom Come storyline where he uses an army of robots, which are giant Batmen, and he's controlling them from his back computer, and they're pretty much sentinels of the city. So there's iterations of Batman where he's old and realizes he can't do it anymore. He's still doing the job. In the case of Batman Beyond, Terry is his proxy, but Terry is essentially Batman in that regard. So it doesn't really matter mentally what he thinks he is. He's still the Batman in functionality. He's still doing it, whether it's physically his body or it's someone else doing it for him. It's still the mantle of Batman doing the thing. Whether he thinks that is it's not that important. And I'm curious where it goes, because there could be great evidence showcasing us that the real person is, in fact, Bruce Wayne. I don't know. I haven't read that much.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of evidence over the years in favor of Batman being the actual person, especially with some of the better stories that have been written for the character over the past decade or so. Past couple decades.
I'm reminded, this is probably not very relevant, I'm reminded of the Lego Batman movie where there's some line where I can't remember who says it, but eventually Batman goes, "No, Bruce Wayne is in Batman's attic, not the other way around," or some joke like that. So I can't remember the line, but it's all just, labeling. You're putting a label on something which doesn't really matter psychologically. However Batman does his job, I don't really care. Because it's incredible.
We've seen plenty of ways that where he's done the job, whether on his own or through a proxy like Terry, or even meeting that idea halfway, like with Kingdom Come that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and I always love the idea that whenever there's a psychic involved or any kind of ghost tries to possess Batman, his mind is so focused and so in control that the probability of him not being sure of himself, whether he knows he's a scared little boy or not, doesn't make a difference, because he's so disciplined that he is going to be Batman as far as he can take it, even when he's being mentally possessed. So it's one of those, I think it was Bad Blood, or what was the movie?
There have been times where Deadman or Dr. Destiny have directly gone into Batman's mind, and Bruce's resolve remains unshaken.
Right. So there is the identity of what he thinks he is, and there's the actual mental control he has as himself, saying, "I'm going to do this. You're not going to stop me." And I have all the faculties to control myself, regardless of what you call me. So, and regardless of what he calls himself, he can call himself, Squirrel Man tomorrow. It doesn't make a difference. He's still going to do the same thing he's always done. Anyway, this is a 10-minute video. Should be fun. Let's get going.
There's a very popular belief among average Batman fans that Bruce Wayne is the mask and Batman is his true self. I see this take all the time, and the first defense people will come up with is how, well, Batman said it himself in Batman Beyond at the DCAU.
Oh.
It's definitive that Bruce Wayne is just a facade.
The voice kept calling me Bruce in my mind. That's not what I call myself.
What do you call yourself? I suppose you would, but that's my name now.
Tell that to my subconscious.
It's a cool little clip and all, it's a nice scene between Bruce and Terry, but
what do you need?
I disagree. I feel like it's kind of disingenuous to adopt the mentality that Bruce Wayne died that night in Crime Alley. He's been nothing more than Batman ever since. And I'm like, all right, buddy.
Relax.
Sure, the Playboy party boy
So you don't believe the man in various instances, including the Lasso of Truth forcing him. Okay.
persona is a mask, as he conveys a certain image to conceal his Batman identity, but saying the entirety of Bruce Wayne is just a mask even when he's around his closest allies and loved ones is just something I don't agree with at all. Like, if there's an instance of Bruce Wayne throwing it back for the one time, then yeah, obviously that's just an act.
Stop that! Mr. Wayne! You have to leave!
I'm not sure what this is from.
Wayne was known for his colorful antics.
This looks like some very progressive game.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is this the Kill the Justice League thing?
Could be.
Genga, you know these things.
Genga, you there? Guess
I
not.
think he died from the footage.
I was like, oh my god, what is that? Ah, run away, run away. All right, well.
That's the video Bruce wanted.
Cover story. The footage is supposedly from a GCPD sting operation. Exactly when Batman was last fighting Two-Face.
You know, I'd almost forgotten he used to do stuff like this.
The best part is, he did it so often, no one's gonna realize this is from a different night.
But I'm not gonna sit here and yap all day without showing the receipts. Let's take a look at the pages of Bruce Wayne Murderer and Bruce Wayne Fugitive. The story starts out with Batman out on patrol alongside Sasha Bordeaux, who was hired to be Bruce Wayne's personal bodyguard. After a while, she found out that Bruce Wayne and Batman were one and the same, and since Bruce couldn't fire her and let her go knowing his secret, he let her be a part of the loop and become a crime fighter. Bruce and Sasha find the dead body of Bruce's former love interest, Vesper Fairchild, in the living room of Wayne Manor. The entire premise of the story is Bruce Wayne being framed for the murder of Vesper Fairchild, as the actual killer carefully planted evidence suggesting that both Bruce and Sasha were involved in the crime. There was a fabricated 911 recording of Vesper crying out for her life that she was beaten then shot to death in Wayne Manor. The DA charges both of them with first-degree murder when they're taken into custody, and things go downhill for Bruce during the initial Gotham City versus Bruce Wayne trial. Bruce's defense attorney points out how he's done a lot of good for the city, especially after the events of No Man's Land, where Gotham experienced a massive earthquake. He played a major part in rebuilding the city and has been associated with several selfless civic, communal, and environmental support systems for Gotham. How's that for the whole Bruce Wayne doesn't use his money to help Gotham nonsense? Unfortunately, Bruce gets denied bail and ends up in jail. The more time he spent in a jail cell, the more he noticed how his life was falling apart. Wayne Enterprises' stock was plummeting, and people believed his parents' murder might have caused a psychological break that drove him to commit murder. And more notably, it prevented him from doing any work out in the field as Batman. So he does what any sensible person would do and escapes police custody while being transported back to Blackgate Prison from the DA's office. So now Bruce...
The main problem with this is that this would really point a finger at Batman being Bruce Wayne when Batman disappears at the same time Bruce is in jail, and then reappears when Bruce is out of jail.
I don't know where he's going with this, aside from he's going to have to admit I, Bruce Wayne, did X or did not do Y. Like, that's a legal precedence. Doesn't mean that the facade is fake or otherwise. So I don't know where this particular conflict can showcase anything, unless somehow we have like Wonder Woman come in and, Lasso of Truth him, something like that.
I don't understand how he's arguing against the core fact about Batman.
Yeah,
how that even makes any sense, except if he himself is incapable of imagining that somebody could even do this type of role playing.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious where this is going.
Bruce Wayne is an escaped convict, but the crazy part is when the Bat family all meet up in the Batcave, he explains to them how he is forever putting the Bruce Wayne persona behind him and will become Batman full-time, while the rest of the world believes Bruce Wayne just fled the country to Santa Prisca. He takes it as far as whenever an ally or one of the other Bat family members would call him Bruce, he'd be like, nah fam, it's Batman,
this is ugly.
I ain't Bruce Wayne no more. Stating how Bruce is a mask he'd been wearing since childhood, which has been nothing more than a liability. Nightwing especially doesn't take kindly to Bruce just giving up and proving his innocence, noting how it wasn't Batman but Bruce Wayne who raised him. It was Bruce Wayne who adopted Dick Grayson. For a brief period, he was fully committed to this. He abandons Wayne Manor and the Batcave entirely to set up shop in a small hideout in the tunnels. Now there was nothing getting in the way of his mission, and he finally felt free. The story puts a big emphasis on the Bat family trying to figure out what actually happened, using the skills of Barbara Gordon, Tim Drake, Alfred, Nightwing, and Cassandra Cain to piece together the puzzle. The tie-in issues across the different Bat family books have them slowly acquiring new clues or leads into proving Bruce Wayne's innocence, while also tackling how some of them questioned his innocence at first for a short period since the evidence planted was so strong against Bruce. Nightwing throughout the entire story was convinced Bruce would never commit such a heinous act, despite what others may have thought at the time. Several months went by with Batman working full-time as a crime fighter, while the Bat family searched for evidence of his innocence. It isn't until he visits visits a dying retired police officer, Gary Sloan, who worked on the case of Thomas and Martha Wayne's murders, that Bruce starts to regain his clarity. He calls Batman to see if he could crack the one case he couldn't as his sort of dying wish, which is to actually solve the murders of Bruce's parents. He was one of the only few people left in Gotham that was certain Bruce wouldn't murder in cold blood ever since he met him as a child the night his parents died. Bruce finally starts to communicate with the Bat family to figure out what actually happened and who murdered Vesper Fairchild and framed Bruce. Right before the killer confesses his wrongdoings to the authorities, proving Bruce Wayne's innocence, Batman has an epiphany, thinking to himself how he initially thought Bruce Wayne died along with his parents, and the mask he's shown to the world is what remained prior to that night. But he comes to the realization that was never the case, because his code of honor and ideals he operates from come from his father, Thomas Wayne, which is a main part as to why he doesn't kill or let others die, as his father wouldn't either since he was a renowned surgeon. Thomas Wayne believed in the sanctity of all life. He finally realizes Bruce was never the mask, closing the issue with, "I am Bruce Wayne, and I always have been."
Yes, sir! This nigga spitting. Damn, nigga!
I don't buy into the belief that Bruce Wayne is merely a mask, as the Bruce Wayne persona plays a crucial role in his moral code and ethical framework as a crime fighter. Despite what you may think, literally all of his closest allies or loved ones call him Bruce when they're not out in the field punching bad guys, which is seen via his close relationships with Wonder Woman and Superman, for example. Zur-En-Arrh, or failsafe, is the perfect embodiment of what happens when you have a Batman who completely disregards Bruce Wayne, with none of his morals or ideology present. Batman created a backup personality that would take over in the event of a psychological attack of any kind, and this other persona, named Zur-En-Arrh, created a robot to serve as a contingency plan for himself in case Batman were to go rogue or take the life of someone else. Batman's framed for murder, the failsafe robot activates, tries to destroy Batman, and mollywops the Justice League and the rest of the Bat family. And ever since Zur-En-Arrh transferred his subconscious into failsafe's body, he's over here running amok with Amanda Waller trying to take out superheroes left and right. This is what happens when you have a Batman without Bruce Wayne, unhinged and out of control.
Yeah, but when you say Bruce Wayne, you're talking about the morals and ethics of Batman, meaning someone who kills. So whether the morals or ethics came from his father, the surgeon, the philanthropist, or whether he developed them on his own, you're splitting hairs on why is he... You're not asking what is Bruce Wayne, you're asking what is Batman really. And you're saying, well, it's really Bruce Wayne. It's like, well, from what? From 8? From 7? From what his dad taught him? Or is it all the training he's done? It's all his life experience. It's all the knowledge he's accrued since then. So this concept of Bruce Wayne becomes, well, it's just a facade, but also the facade has morals and ethics as a child. I don't think Batman cares where it comes from. He's just doing what he believes is right, and that happens to be everything he's learned. He's traumatized by that element of a child, and he could never get over it. And you could go to therapy and realize what it means and actualize yourself. Batman doesn't need to actualize himself. He's already actualized. He is at the peak. So yeah, maybe there are some more demons inside of him, but does that make any much of a difference? I don't really know. And if the writer wants to make it poetic that he accepts himself as Bruce Wayne, it's like, that's great. Are you going to stop being Batman? Probably not. So what's the difference? Whether you call it Batman, whether you call it Bruce Wayne, whether your ethics come from your father or from your masters or whomever, you're still doing the same thing. You're still acting the same way. You might be more relaxed about it. You might be more confident about it, but you're still the same person. So I'm not quite seeing the problem, and I'm not quite seeing the issue. So... And this is from, I'm assuming, Detective Comics or some other version of the Batman comic series. There's probably like 7 or 8 still. And how does that contradict everything else that came before? I don't know. So.
Forceful control and all the good things Bruce has done for those in need through different charity events or donations is just for the sake of making himself look good and conceal the fact that he's Batman. You're gonna look me in the eye and tell me with a straight face that when he rebuilds a run-down old mansion and transforms it into a place for the whole Bat family to live in and share, while converting the surrounding buildings being sold into affordable housing, charitable organizations, and green space, giving speeches about helping those in...
I guess those are tarps, but they're white tarps. I don't know. Like, I guess waterproof tarps are white in Gotham. I don't know.
It looks like magical bed sheets that magically fly around the mansion and make it pretty again.
I guess they ran out of blue ink. Blue ink is more expensive than not ink, so they just kept it white. Or black tarps. I don't know what they use. Whatever element they're using for waterproofing is fine in Gotham City.
Whatever amount of wealth he has, it's just for show, and that's just a mask.
Come on now, dog. Come.
Yeah, Bloodhaven.
Blood. It says blood.
Yeah, that's how it's spelled.
Blood.
Yeah, I know.
That's not a thing.
Welcome to comic books.
You can't just put umlauts in random spots. It's like this smoking thing called fume that they insist it means fume, but it just says fume.
Welcome to comic books.
And you wonder why people despise them.
I don't. I know exactly why, but I don't care. I still love them.
Come on, man.
I see so many people that one panel of Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman all holding the Lasso of Truth and Wonder Woman Annual 1 from DC Rebirth. Basically the retelling of the Trinity meeting each other for the first time, and Wonder Woman pulls out her Lasso of Truth to serve as a sort of translator, as Batman and Superman couldn't understand what she was saying at the time. Wonder Woman reveals her name to be Diana of Themyscira. Superman says his name is Clark Kent and Kal-El. When Batman holds onto the lasso, he responds with his name just being Batman. And you have no idea how many times I've seen people use this as some sort of gotcha to prove that Bruce Wayne is truly the Mask, when this comic panel isn't trying to insinuate that delusion at all. It's mostly used as defense from the people who...
It doesn't matter if it's a delusion. That's what he thinks. And the same argument can be applied to his, in that comic. Let's say, okay, I am Bruce Wayne. Great. Let's do the Lasso of Truth again. What does he think?
Yeah, the argument was never either... It was never, this is the objective truth. Or nor was it ever... It's a lie he's convinced himself as being the truth. No, it's like Smud said. It's what he believes.
Yeah, it's the one time where subjective truth is the relevant element.
Yeah, and if he on the next weekend thinks he's an armadillo and he says, "I'm Armadillo Man," it's like, okay, Bruce, whatever you say. You're not going to change your outfit. You're not going to change your style. You're not going to change what you do. It's just how he identifies as. And it doesn't make much. It's just a name. It's just a label to him at this point. So he could.
Yeah, all the label. It's the Batman is just the label for who he became when his parents died.
Right.
That's all that's going on here. That's all this scene proves.
I like the arc that we got with Catwoman last year, where she wanted to marry Bruce. They're going through the stages of up to the marriage, and Bruce is going to change, and he's going to spend more time with her and going to give up some of the responsibilities. And then Selina's like, I can't do this. Gotham needs you more than I do, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh my God. And he's like, okay, fine. I was ready to give up some of this stuff for you, but if you don't want that anymore, then we won't get married. So it's like this wonderful sense of conflict about him no longer doing what he can do for other responsibilities. And it's not like, oh my God, my world has ended. It's, okay, I'm not going to be happy, or I'm not going to be with someone in that regard. Let me go back to doing what I do because I'm an adult and it's not a big deal and people move on. So you need stories like that to challenge the status quo and to see why it goes back. And in this case, all we're doing is, well, at this point, this is what he thinks. Well, tomorrow that could change. I agree. It could change tomorrow, but there's no evidence of that. And it doesn't change the fact he's still Batman.
It's like he's complaining that this divine item isn't working right.
It's like the mask is this psychological thing. It's like, yes, it's a psychological thing. Okay, tomorrow he'll put up another mask and he'll still be Batman, or he'll still do the things that Batman is doing, and he call himself something else. It makes very little difference.
Yeah,
it is quite literally a matter of perspective.
Yeah, and when people are traumatized enough, they can compartmentalize in strange ways, and abandoning your original real object, like what is objectively on your identity, is not that uncommon actually. That you'd rather be someone else or take on a new name, not just to like if you've been sexually abused and want to go the police helps you to move and changes your name. That can actually be helpful because maybe it helps you to disassociate with what happened as well.
I do like
this is a similar thing.
I do like the fact he brought up the Zur-En-Arrh personality, because that shows that even as if he thinks inside himself as Batman or as Bruce Wayne or as whatever, he has this other, I don't know how this works and it makes any sense, but it's comic books or whatever. He has this other element of his mind that he has a contingency for in case his mind gets taken over. So
quite literally a psychological failsafe.
Right.
Yeah.
So up there, up in his brain, not only is he the Batman, not only is he Bruce, but he's also Zur-En-Arrh for all these contingencies.
And in the classic naming conventions of DC and Marvel, Zur is just the middle name of Bruce backwards.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's it's the same. Like, there's so much going on in the world of Batman, and when we say, the real persona of Clark is Clark, and Superman is the fake thing. It's like, well, Kal-El is also Clark. Superman is the image he gives to people, but he sees himself as himself. Like he's like a farm boy mentality. He's got that down to earth kind of guy, and yeah, he gets furious now and again, but he's a really gentle soul, and he never wants to go to full potential because people and things will blow up because he's that strong.
It's like the thing with Clark is like he names himself both things because it's both sides of the coin per se with him. They both make up who he is. The farm boy and the Kryptonian god.
Yeah, in this argument, I'm not seeing how Batman is fake. I'm not seeing how Batman is, I guess secondary, because he's not saying it's not part of the psyche that is Bruce, or in that person's mind. Let's call him Bruce Wayne for the sake of it. He's just saying it's not the dominant one. And I'm like, okay, what are we doing? Are we talking about multiple personalities? Are we talking about identities? Are we talking about the perception?
In that moment, it's specifically identity. Who are you? That's all that's what they're going off of going into that moment with the lasso. Identity. And Bruce sees himself under the identity of Batman. Nothing wrong with that, because like we said earlier, Batman is just the label for who he became when his parents died. That's it.
Yeah. And for Superman, it's rather that the Kal-El aspect of him is something that has been revealed to him when he was an adult. That is just a past that he learns about and can integrate.
Yeah.
That is not the same as with Batman.
Uh-huh.
Commonly shared screenshots of comics without issue itself. Mind you, the guy who wrote this issue, Greg Rucka, is the same guy who co-wrote Bruce Wayne Fugitive and Bruce Wayne Murderer, which disproves that belief. Him responding with
it doesn't disprove anything. What are you talking about? This is a perfectly fine comic, as that is a perfectly fine comic. Whether one happened before the other makes little difference. Next year, Batman can turn into a magical flying bat creature and call himself the magical flying bat creature. What difference does it make? So long as he keeps doing what he's doing for the same reason, which is justice, people are going to be like, that's weird. And then next year they turn him back, like they did with Superman Red and Blue.
Red and Blue, yeah.
Like that was weird. That was like, what the hell is that about? He's still Superman doing Superman stuff. So
it's just a status quo change that ultimately wasn't going to last long anyway.
Yeah. It's just that with Batman, his conflicts are more psychological, whereas Superman's are more metaphysical, I guess.
Yeah. That's why they're both appealing for different reasons.
Yeah.
Completely different reasons.
Batman does not negate his identity as Truth, and at that moment, Batman reflects his immediate and overriding persona in the context of his mission. Saying his name is Batman simply isn't a lie. Again, if you actually read the issue, all that happens is Diana pulls up in front of Batman and Superman. They can't understand what she's saying. She pulls out the lasso as a translator and says her name first. It's not like she went, okay guys, let's all take turns saying our true real names. Like, it ain't that deep, Gango. Many different stories over the years, like Batman Ego, clarify how both Bruce Wayne and Batman play an equal part in his psyche. Bruce Wayne is the reason Batman isn't some raging lunatic. Any sense of Batman's compassion?
Again, we're assuming that Bruce Wayne is some sort of ethical justice-seeking paragon when all we know about him is that he died when he was 8. And the rest is a facade to facilitate the adult image of a billionaire inheritor of a business. When he's much more than that, and he hides that in his other facade called Batman, and people only see the scary, weird version of that, which is in the shadows, if at all, and then only his compatriots see that he is more than just that. So I'm not seeing a huge problem with any of this, but he is saying you can't have Bruce without Batman, and I'm like, yeah, that's the instigator of Batman. That's true. But how far it goes, I have no idea. I don't know why he's saying it's part and parcel. I don't know, and I don't think the writers know. I don't think they understand the human psyche that well to like if they could create a failsafe in his mind. Batman is a hell of a lot stronger than we could ever think about. It understands the human mind a lot more than the way an author can. So yeah, I don't know. I don't. This is all semantics to me.
You could say it's his superhuman ability
to control his mind so much that his body follows. Yeah, I'd say that's why we look at the boy who died, or the boy who was so traumatized that he motivated himself to become a superhuman through all the training he did and all the discipline he did. So
yeah, and to build and maintain these mental constructs that facilitate all this.
Yeah,
that requires an insane level of reflection and introspection.
Yeah, it's really a lot of suffering and drive to say, even though I'm this crazy guy who doesn't get much sleep and jumps around on buildings and punches people from 10 stories up in the air, I still manage to do this every day. And that is suffering. That is putting yourself at death's door every day.
Now, I would interpret from this that the way his mind functions is that the true being that is himself in his mind, is his consciousness, is a constantly detached outside observer of his own mind. And that's why anyone possessing his mind, he's the watcher who watches the watchman inside himself.
Yeah, I think.
And that's why anyone getting inside can't stay inside, because he will always get back in control, because he's not actually truly inside.
I like the comparison to Rorschach, because that's kind of what Rorschach was sort of influenced by. This person who sees the mask as himself, because that is what matters to him, not the young man who gave up everything to fight for justice. And he is a vigilante in the extreme sense that he will die for what he believes in. So it's the same idea. And whether Rorschach literally has his mask on or not, whether he's in jail or not in jail, he's still going to be fighting with criminals. He's still going to be punching people out and getting to the bottom of what's the truth. So the same with The Question, the same with all these other heroes, that's kind of the detective mentality or persona they've got. So I don't like splitting hairs on this weird identity, psychological, subjective interpretation of one comic versus another comic, when there's so many things going on in between. And to use the Lasso of Truth is kind of like a definitive thing. But then you argue, well, that was 10 years ago. This comic came out just last year, so this is definitive. And all you're doing with this argument is you're limiting the lore to that next comic. And we could have another comic that comes out that has another Lasso
your
of Truth.
favorite interpretation.
Yeah, so we could have like the chair, was that chair of Mobius, and he asks the chair of Mobius,
chair, yeah.
Who am I? And it says, you're Batman and you are Bruce Wayne. And we're like, oh, well, who cares then? It's all the same. It's all relative.
Like if DC ever cared to give a damn about this whole discussion, it's like they would just write an issue that had Metron's Mobius chair in it and just close the book on this once and for all. But that takes away from the mystique of Batman too.
Yeah, it's true. Anytime you reveal the metaphysical idea of identity with the Lasso of Truth, you're like, okay, well, that's that. I don't have to worry about it anymore. But because the Lasso of Truth is based on your subjective interpretation of the truth, then tomorrow Batman can think he's a circus performer, and then the amazing Bruce Wayne-o, and you're like, what? What the hell? So it's really not that big a deal. I like to use the interpretation that Bruce was traumatized as a child. Whatever that did to him, genetics, force of will, genius, motivation, whatever you want to call it, disciplined himself ever since then in the name of justice to become this superhuman. And
so to the point where in the original Golden Age comics, they straight up have the young Bruce pray to vowing for justice, vowing his life to finding justice, which eventually leads him to become Batman.
Yeah, and whether, again, what he calls himself, what he thinks of himself inside is really up to the writer's interpretation. And if they want to resolve that, it's not gonna mean much, because we talked about how he was about to lose his responsibilities marrying someone else. That would change his lifestyle. Becoming an old man, that changes his lifestyle. He's still doing it. He's still doing Batman in any capacity. So whether it's 90% of his life or 50% of his life, or he hands off the mantle to someone else, he's still going to keep being Batman, even if he's with an old man with a cane walking down the street, to his best of his ability. So inside, he thinks he's like Batman, even if physically he knows he can't be Batman. Anyway.
Moral compass with children or the innocent come from Bruce Wayne. All of this isn't to say that Batman is a false mask he puts on to pretend to be someone he's not, or that Batman is really the mask and there is only Bruce Wayne, but rather that both personas play a vital role in who he is as a person. The Batman you all know and love, the hero we all adore so much, wouldn't be who he is without Bruce Wayne. Batman is a response to trauma, and
the issue is not we disagree with 10% here, 90% there. It's how much is Bruce Wayne? We don't know. And that's kind of the joke, because we know it as a facade the same way we know Batman as a facade. But inside, this human we call Bruce Wayne thinks himself as something more. And the name is kind of wishy-washy. It doesn't really make much of a difference. So yeah, maybe he sees himself as 51% Batman, and he's mathematically correct, because most of the time he's Batman anyway. And on Mondays he has to attend board meetings, and during that day he's 80% Bruce Wayne, the facade. It's just this is getting like when you go to your job, you are 100% your job. You are doing your job and you do it well, and that's why you're still working there. That's the mask you put on of the line cook at McDonald's or whatever you do. That's fine.
When does Batman do his job?
The thing with Batman is he never takes off the mask, and he's trying to be Bruce Wayne during the day.
He's working 24/7.
He's always on, exactly. So that's why we say it's Batman on the inside, because that's what he's mostly doing. And it would be very, very strange if I was a 24/7 worker. Let's say I'm a line cook at pick a restaurant, and that's the majority of my time, but I call myself a window washer. when I'm really a line cook, it's kind of weird. That would be silly. That would be, getting my streams crossed, because inside I'm a flower cutter. I don't know. I make wicker baskets, but the majority of my time I'm a line cook. Like it doesn't make any sense. So I don't know. It's a weird thing to say. Unless there's a good traumatic reason for it, like in my heart of hearts, I want to be a gardener and I dream of gardening all the time in my mind, while 51% of the time I'm a line cook. Like what are we doing here except arguing what does Bruce Wayne actually think of himself? It's a strange argument to make. And I don't like these metaphysical, internal, psychological battles that people like to have in books. Like they're arguing with themselves for chapters on end, and the climax is, I'm going to think differently now. That's it. That's the conflict. It's all internal. It's like, well, yeah, that's part of what a conflict should be, but it shouldn't be all of it. And then you take the door number 2 as opposed to door number 1 one morning. It's like, okay, sure. The physical reality is less important. I don't know. I kind of like Batman being functional, being always on, doing his job. And I say, if the man is doing his job most of the time, mentally that's where he is as well. And that's why I think Batman is inside the Bruce Wayne body more.
That's the crazy cool dark thing about him.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't like justifying it that way, but I have to use something to make sense of this.
Justice. But Bruce Wayne is the foundation. You get rid of Bruce Wayne entirely, you don't get Batman. You get Batman.
See, that's to me is a Superman
because
argument.
He was born as Bruce Wayne, of course. There can't be a Batman without a Bruce Wayne ever having existed.
Yeah, I prefer using this for the Superman argument, because without Jonathan Kent, Superman can be anything. He could be raised by any other parent. So yes, Bruce Wayne growing up with his family, losing his family, made Batman, of course. But you can't say all of his morals and ethics came just from age 1 to 8 living with the Waynes. I'm sure it was part of it. But I don't think
that certainly gave him the first-hand experience for what's really going on in Gotham.
Yeah,
to be sure.
Yeah.
And that's his childhood taken away from him.
Exactly. Whereas with
taking away his family, you take away his childhood.
Whereas we look at Clark, and he has 2 fathers, and amazingly, his Kryptonian father also taught him ethics and morals, but he was always guided by his real father, which is Jonathan Kent. With Bruce, he had, outside of Alfred, he had nothing.
Alfred and anyone he trained with, but it was mainly Alfred.
Oh yeah, we're talking from like 8 till 20. When did he leave? Was it 21?
Well, from age 8 until, at least until becoming Batman.
Yeah,
Batman onward. And
that was like a 7 to 10 year
that is
tour.
Well, he was 8. There was the 10-year gap of training was like the decade leading up to the inception of Batman, which it's like according to the New 52, he started at 27 as Batman.
Okay. Right.
Like late 20s. In the decade before that was his world tour of training. So like he had to have been at the oldest 18 when he started.
Yeah.
And then 27 and then late 20s for Batman.
Yeah, we never hear the argument about all of his teachers and all of his, like, there's a lot, and there's
we know a few.
Yeah, like the professional boxer, the FBI guy, the detective, the escape artist. There's all these.
Ra's al Ghul, David Kane. There's quite a few.
The Asian martial artists. There's all kinds of Tibetan dudes. Yeah, and that would be good to get their perspective on what it means to be a fighter or a man or to be a warrior of that disposition, whatever that disposition might be.
Let alone their perspectives on how they see Bruce Wayne as a person prior to becoming Batman.
Yeah, so he's missing at least 20 years of this boy becoming Batman and what he had to do to get there. Because I would guarantee you the sweat and the blood he went through is a little bit more important than, his dad telling him don't kill, like be nice, be good to the community. Like that's part of it, of course. No one's saying no. But all his trainers, all the guys who pushed him to be better because they knew how amazingly skilled Bruce was and how much of a genius he was at everything.
Which let it be clear is Bruce. Well, to your point, Bruce was a prodigy at least close to half of the things he trained in. He was gifted, to be sure, but that is secondary to his actions, especially when he becomes Batman.
Yeah, I still see the death of his parents as motivation for all of this development, but we can't just say it's just the parents. I can't just say that because it doesn't make any sense. There's so much. You got 20 years of training, or just with Alfred, just learning and figuring out what are you doing, how are you doing it, why are you doing it this way.
Alfred was outright Bruce's moral compass during his first few years of Batman.
I would say that is a bit more influential during all those years than the parents were, except their deaths, of course. But it all falls down to Alfred. What kind of person is Alfred? How did he influence him? What did he do? How did he train him? All that jazz. And that's where we get the Gotham story on TV from a few years ago.
And then from a moral compass standpoint, it can be argued, albeit loosely, that the job of refining Bruce's moral compass transferred from Alfred to the Justice League once he joined that.
Oh yeah. There's a whole other bunch of influence from Clark, especially. He was
Clark, Diana, Barry, Hal, everyone else.
Yeah. So the Batman is not just Bruce Wayne with anger issues or sense of entitlements or whatever. Nor
is it just a blank symbol of justice and vengeance in Gotham.
Yeah.
It's more than either of those.
And I don't think that Clark's psyche is definitely not that weak to simplify it to just one of those two. There's many things going on. So
Clark's influence is paramount in Batman's late career, because Clark mainly was the one that got Bruce to ease up on certain things.
All right, I think we're almost done. We got a few more seconds left. Here we go.
You just get a more sophisticated version of the Punisher. Saying Batman is the true persona, to me, is a surface level understanding of who he is as a character, and gets rid of the nuance and complexity of some of the best stories on why being Gotham's protector is so significant for his motivations and sense of justice.
It doesn't, because with Batman being the actual person, again, that's representative of the issues that of the real problems of Gotham City. He has the first-hand experience on how much of a hellhole Gotham is, and he does his best to try to find the best possible solution, not just for himself in avenging his parents, but for all of the people of Gotham, so that no one would go through that again.
Yeah, he put it in a very strange way.
Yeah. That's the reason why Batman is the person, because Batman came from the worst of the worst problems in Gotham, and he tries his damn hardest to find the best solution that he can. And at this point in time, the best possible solution is just being Batman, stopping the criminals, protecting the innocent. That's really it. At least right now. So I'm just like, to sum it up, Bruce Wayne being the Mask, it isn't nonsense. Nor is Batman being the actual person nonsense either.
Yeah, I'm still trying to find more evidence, and I'm sure that comic he showed was good, because I didn't know about that comic where he accepts himself as Bruce Wayne, which is, I don't think he ever disregarded himself as Bruce Wayne.
No.
He just didn't care. He just like, okay, yeah, I'm this other guy, and I'm this persona, and I'm that persona, but that's fine. I don't care.
He never disregarded Bruce Wayne. It's just that usually Batman took more priority.
Oh, yeah.
But he never threw Bruce Wayne aside, though, because that's also a big part of it.
It comes down to semantics, and I don't like playing the mental game of, well, this is what's really happening in Bruce's brain, and I'm like, okay, if you say so.
Again, it is just a matter of perspective. That his perspective is that Batman is the person, with Bruce Wayne being the guys that helps elevate Batman. What's the issue? Honestly.
Anyway, we have no stream memes because why would we? There's not much to...
What memes would there be from this same tired argument?
Yeah.
That is nothing.
Yeah. Well, I don't mind it because he did show me a comic I never saw before. That's always nice to know. I didn't know Bruce has some resolution to his persona issue, if that was even an issue. So, hey, cool. Good on DC. Making so many Batman comics. I'm sure they've covered the problem of Bruce for decades to come. I've never thought of yet. So
every variant. Like Isekai, covering every variant of Isekai.
So many tropes you didn't know they existed in the first place.
Although, ironically, Suicide Squad Isekai is one of the better things to come out of that IP.
You know,
I'm not even kidding.
I only watched the first episode. I thought, that's a good, cute thing. I'm just not interested because there's so much stuff.
It's at least not a complete dog shit like the films.
It is not bad. I watched it. It was good animation. The voice acting was okay. I didn't like Joker driving a car with a piano keyboard. I thought that was retarded, but other than that, it was fine.
And it was at least in character. Otherwise, yeah, it's dumb.
Yeah, I've seen a lot worse. So I'm like, it's fine, whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, but yeah, this kind of idea. It's like the comics are good mostly for exploring these kinds of ideas, but to sum up this whole thing, again, Batman is just a label for the man that came out of the problems plaguing Gotham. It's like, part of the problem is also that sometimes people take it a bit too literally. He is Batman. It's like, no, there's more to it than just he's Batman.
I like to think in the animated series, I don't remember what episode it was, but it showcases the start of Batman where he didn't know what to do to scare people because he was just a guy in a mask with a hammer.
Mask of the Phantasm. Mask of the Phantasm shows some of the lead up to Batman's debut.
Right.
In that universe.
And he doesn't know what to do to scare people, and then he realizes the bats work, and he's scared of bats, and it just dawns on him to start sewing. So it's that's a good example of Bruce the man figuring out what to make functional in the city of Gotham to beat up or to stop crime in a more efficient way with fear. So cool storyline there. Not the best interpretation, but the simplest. I say BTS is very simple interpretation of the cape and the cowl and the Batmobile and all the simple tropes that you would expect from a Batman story to be as clean and simple as told as possible, and that's fine enough for me.
The animated series still remains the best and most efficiently told story of Batman, especially how he started. The Mask of the Phantasm pretty much summed it up damn near perfectly with what he went through after he came back to Gotham and what led up to actually creating the guise of Batman.
Yeah. All right. We got a super chat from the Threadnought. Thank you, sir. Hey, Ginga, Detective Comics. Yes, I know.
Yes, we've heard the joke.
Yep. Thank you, sir.
Anyway. It's District of Columbia.
Okay.
Yes.
Anyway, that was Friday. Thank you guys for your time. Under an hour. Wow, we went through that pretty well. Thanks, guys. That was a good video. So
nice round hour.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I'm gonna go back to drinking water because I had too much cake this week, so I gotta keep my digestive fluids stable.
Now, as for the video, I wouldn't call it bad. I'd just say misguided, at the very least.
I think a bit too biased. Yeah,
it's like a little biased. Yeah, it's like because the whole idea of the Bruce Wayne and Batman, how that dynamic works, that's been pretty clear cut for decades at this point. It's like you can read more into it, but you could also come out with a video like this.
I do not like the the concept of this mental, what's really going on in Batman's brain. Like, I don't care. It just doesn't bother me.
It's like the night his parents died changed him. That's really all that needs to be said.
Yeah.
Mhm.
At least on a basic level.
That was the impetus, and how you read into that is up to you. But when you have magical artifacts telling you that's what he thinks, and I'm like, that's fine. You could call himself Bruce Wayne. I don't care. It's fine.
Okay.
You can just write it off as that just being his perspective on the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like it is subjective, and that's just how he sees himself. That's fine. People might see Bruce Wayne more. That's fine too.
Yeah, there's lots of arguments in those comics whenever Tim or anyone has to play as Batman for a day because Batman's out of commission or out of the country. And it's like, what does it mean to be Batman? What happens if he dies? Like, what do I have to do? There's all kinds of stories like that, and what that responsibility should entail, how I should deal with the public, how I should deal with police, how I should deal with my loved ones. Like, that's part of the mystery and persona of the Batman stories. So that's been done so many times. It's still going on, so we still like this story. And to start saying, well, this is really what Bruce thinks. This is really what's going on. I'm like, it's not that important. And imagine doing that with Superman. Imagine doing that with any superhero. It's like, I don't think that matters. I really don't think going into Diana's brain and saying, well, she thinks she's a demigod. Well, she's really just clay. And it's like, no, she's a woman. It's like she's all of those things. And however she thinks of herself is fine. It doesn't bother me. So anyway, I don't like playing favorites with the mind games. It's kind of silly.
Yeah.
So thank you guys. Great video. Talk to you soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.